we're ready to do it. All right, everybody, welcome to the June 15th, 2026 policy meeting. At this time, I'll call this meeting to order. We do have public comment today, but they are not on agenda items. So we're going to move forward to Ms. Graham for our policies for review.
Excellent, thank you. We are here today to update a few of our policies in line with some recent legislation regarding grade floors and content and credit recovery. So we will start with policy IKA. This policy itself did not have any changes in the text. However, we are going to talk about the rule, and I wanted to add a reference to the new statute. So that is the only proposed change to IKA is the reference to the statute.
I have no questions or concerns. Is everybody good with that?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Excellent. Next is IKAR, which is the accompanying rule. And again, this one is just being updated in accordance with the new legislation. So you can see beginning on the second page, there's a paragraph struck regarding 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And then again, regarding middle school students and a base grade of 50%. And then as another brief update on page 4 of the policy, we just removed the reference to a final exam for Project Lead the Way courses. It's my understanding that that is no longer required for Project Lead the Way. So we just wanted to take out that reference while we were updating the policy. And then on page 7, there is a recommended deletion regarding transfer grades from the 15-16 school year. As it is unlikely that we would have any students transferring in that far back at this point. We just thought that we could go ahead and delete that. And then there is, again, an update on the references. Oh, I apologize for the references on this. That's all.
I did have some questions, if you don't mind, Ms. Parker, going through it a little bit for me, just from my understanding. Where did we potentially, or previously, sorry, use this grade floor, and why or how is it?
Sure, great question. So as far back as I can remember, we've always had a grade floor in 3rd through 8th grade. So we did not, if a student earned a grade in the report card lower than a 50, then we updated, the grade would be changed on the report card to be a 50. So if the average was a 37, we would change it to a 50 with the statement that was previously listed in policy. The reason for that is that we all know if you have below a 50, it's very hard by your year-end average to come back from that. You would have to really have significantly higher grades to not have a failing grade at the end of the year. That is the reason.
So it's like potentially a first semester maybe got a 39, you elevated it to a 50, so that maybe perhaps that student
50 was
did start to apply themselves more, had a C, C's,
Yes.
B's, it helps balance that out a little bit, okay. I just was trying to understand why we did it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand why. And then was it only in those 3rd through 8th grade?
Yeah, I mean, there's also too, you have a student struggling, and you look historically.
Sorry, was it 3rd through 8th or 3rd through 5th?
It is,
There's a separate portion about that.
Okay.
yes, 2 different sections, but it is historically in 3rd through 8th.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Mr. Carroll.
I mean, when you have a student who's historically struggles, and they start off that first quarter, and you give them, they get nothing, they get a 0. And then all of a sudden, they did, 70, 80 where mathematically, they would never get back in the game. And that leads to more discipline, that leads to more, and honestly.
Discourage you.
Yeah, I mean, and some, kids can figure it out real quick that, hey, there's no way if I can pass. So, I mean, you don't want to, you want to lead life, you want to give encouragement, and so that was the heart of it.
I understand that fully, and like maybe a life circumstance, or maybe
Yeah.
I've mentored teens where they break up with a girlfriend or boyfriend and they're devastated for like a quarter semester and it's hard to get back on. I guess that kind of brings me to the opposite side of it then. With that gone, what is our plan to help remediate sooner? I know there's kind of some stuff outlined in it, but like, how do we capture those kids that might have struggled initially that now are trying to apply themselves so they don't get discouraged, or
So a lot of the same things that we have historically done will remain in place. That clear communication with parents. We actually I walked out of a meeting with principals, this morning to come up here, and they already were talking about that, like making sure parents are aware of the update in policy at the beginning of the school year, so that way they understand. And because it has been reflected on report cards historically, if a student earned lower than a 50, but a 50 was reported, then those parents are still aware that that their grade has been lower, outside of parent conferences, things like that. And our teachers, will work with kids depending on what each grade level and each different school handles it, whether that's, in class, extra homework, things like extra things that they can do at home, things like that. So all of those things that teachers have done that are in alignment with their grading practices will remain the same. But the communication of it is gonna be really important.
Yeah, so I guess, I know sometimes grades take time to input, like I know it's really dependent on the class or the teacher, where my students or students I know who will go through almost a full semester and not get that 0 in the grade book. Maybe they didn't realize they missed it. I mean, is it just at that point, I don't know, what do you do in those scenarios? And is there like protections or considerations with people's IEPs to like update based on like the new?
So, I mean, anything that's in their IEP we would be in compliance with. So then that could be a range of things
Like maybe some might need to update their IEPs accordingly. So like, are we sending that out to students who this could?
So that will all be part of the communication, because we'll have to communicate it. We discussed it at admin meetings, but notification of teachers as well as parents and all of those other groups. And in terms of grading, certainly that putting grades in at the last minute is not a best practice. And that is something that our principals talk a lot with teachers about, especially if there is a concern. We want to make sure students have time to respond to that, as well as parents to provide any support necessary there. So we'll continue to monitor that. And then as we have in the past, just work through any unique circumstances that come up in regards to that.
So like, what would a student do if maybe they didn't realize, the grade wasn't inputted till later? Is just meet with the local their teacher first and try to mediate
Same
it.
thing. Work with the administrator if they can't get help they need to the teacher, and then ultimately we can help if they need some resolution that they can't find at school level.
Perfect. I appreciate you answering all my questions, Dr. Walters.
Is middle school specifically, because this is a really big discussion, but is middle school quarter recovery gonna look similar to what it has been?
So that
Rigor
question
piece?
came up. I can't tell where quarter recovery is specifically mentioned in the updates to the law, so I don't know that quarter recovery will change in terms of what the update to the law is. We are working on quarter recovery changes through curriculum and instruction with our middle school curriculum writers this summer. So that we have putting some more things in place to make that a little bit more rigorous.
I did have some.
Yeah.
Good job on those questions. It's perfect.
Yes, and quarter recovery is not specifically addressed in the
Right.
legislative intent talks.
Only high
Was the
school
high
writing
school,
class.
yeah, corner grading.
But we are working on the quarter recovery questions that we've gotten from schools to make that a little bit more rigorous and time intensive as well.
I appreciate
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, so the project Lead the Way, is that a change in there that they won't have exams? Is that new?
No, yes and no. They will still have an exam. Project Lead the Way has updated where they used to have only a national exam, and we don't get those grades back until significantly later, so it couldn't be included in the grades. And now they offer 2 different kinds of exams. So that's why the policy is being updated, because they will only take one of the exams, which they call a classroom exam. I'm not sure why they call it that, but just because they're a company, they can call it whatever they want, I guess. And then the national exam, which has historically been referenced in policy, that grade is received much later, kind of along the lines of AP, kind of how AP exams work.
Right.
So it doesn't impact the grade at the time, and students have to opt into that one. So we didn't want that reflected in policy, since students don't opt in to the national
Choose to
exam.
not take it, I mean, so that's the one they take to get the AP credit.
Correct.
Right.
For that higher weighting,
So
yeah,
it's-
because now Project Lead
Has
the
it
Way.
been
is
optional in the past?
No, that was the only one they
Oh, I
offered.
see. So now they're gonna have a classroom exam that's just like the regular.
Yeah, the
that
part,
counts
like their
20%.
final exam, regular classroom, like we do for.
Is that one that like specifically our teachers will create, or is that
No,
a
that's
standardized?
that's a
From
standardized one from Project Lead the Way,
So
but then
they'll
in order to take the national exam, students have to offer
So
into that.
2 exams if they choose to do that.
Correct.
And the one titled classroom is mandatory.
Yes, for their, that's their final exam, yeah.
Okay.
But the AP is just to get that, it's like that.
If they wanna, taking the national exam allows them to apply to receive, depending on which class it is, it's only available for some classes, but allows them to receive college credit for that if they do well on the exam and opt in. I mean, it's a course that's available.
Is there any uses you have,
Yeah.
like parent?
Yes, if they want to go that college credit route.
Any more questions? Right, are we all good with the changes? So, yes, I'm like, well, okay.
All right, perfect.
Good in the sisters next season.
I'll take that as a compliment. All right, so the last policy on the agenda for today is IKADD. And I will say that I do not know why there's an asterisk at the end of this policy, and I've been to find out before we update it, but but
Maybe
this
it's
is.
not necessary, I guess.
I'm not really sure. This is the only one I've seen like that. But this policy is regarding content and credit recovery. Again, the changes here are just a reflection of the update in legislation regarding the requirement that students have to have completed all required assignments, either in the relevant subset for content recovery or for the course for credit recovery. And so we added those references there and then added the legal reference at the end.
Anyone have any questions? I'm good with those changes.
That's all for today.
Awesome, thank you, Ms. Graham. At this time, we do have some comments on agenda items, so you could, one at a time, maybe just come stand right here and state your name and just what policies or just whatever you'd like to talk about.
So, my name is Jason Brockert, if you're not already familiar with me. First off, for the policies that were covered today, and we already spoke briefly about this, I agree with removing the grade 4, what it was originally intended for, and what it became are two different things. So previously, it would have been if somebody was really, really struggling or missed a bunch of assignments, or they were out because they were sick, or whatever happened, they tanked their first semester, you'd be able to work with the teacher and make assignments and whatever. And so that was originally supposed to be so that we could set it and forget it. And if somebody was just tanking their first semester, they didn't want to do anything and get out of it, and they just got a 50, and let's see if we can recover the second semester. Like, that's what it was originally meant for. That's not what it became. And so a bunch of the questions back and forth about, this, then, the other, I think that removing that grade 4 puts a lot of control back into teachers' hands, and I like that. But the bigger things that I want to talk about are the bullying policies. And there was a lot that went through the board meeting this last time. And I stood up for 3 minutes and I talked about the fact that there was a lot that was covered in the bullying policies. And there were a lot of things that I saw that did not work well. I didn't have enough time to talk about the things that I thought worked well as well, because 3 minutes is not a lot of time to get through all of these policies. So the big thing that really disappointed me is that you had a parent, it doesn't matter if it was me or somebody else, stand up and say, I have questions about these policies. And then it immediately went to vote, and everybody voted to pass the policies as written for the first pass. Now, here's one of the biggest things with this first pass, policy JII-R. So the rule for the student grievances is slated to be stricken as redundant, the entire thing, all 9 pages or whatever it is. But I don't see anything in policy JII referencing policy JICFAA-R to say that if you need to find a rule, wherever we call it redundant, here's where to find it. So that's the first one, is that completely deleting the rule makes it administratively confusing, because then you have a grievance policy. And the big thing is, what's the difference between grievances and bullying? Right, bullying is a more of a one-to-one kind of thing. It's a very personal thing, whereas grievances are a more general thing. So you can't just say that they're redundant, I see that you added hazing into the bullying policy, kind of seeming like you were trying to wrap the grievances policy into the bullying policy. But when I got reading through how all of that worked, it didn't work. There were conflicting pieces of information between the policies There were things that were said to be redundant, which were not actually repeated in the other rule. The rules were not referenced between each other. And then when you actually get into the meat of JICFAA-R, harassment, intimidation, bullying, hazing was added. The amount of redactions and replacements is substantial. It would take any reasonable person quite a lot of time to get through it, to even understand what had been changed. So I did. I spent a couple hours going through it. And again, the big thing is that I stood up and I said, I have questions, I have issues with how this was enacted. And if you know, I have a lot of skin in the game when it comes to how the bullying policies are written and executed. So the changes that I see as a very impacted parent on bullying policies are very poorly done. I recommend that it goes entirely back through the process. But beyond that, I have a whole list of things that either they conflict, they make logical loopholes, they make the policy stronger for the institution and weaker for the student. Many, many times, the changes in the policy are for the institution and against the student. So, I mean, we can sit and go through this page by page if you like, or I would.
Could you give me a copy of that, please?
I certainly can. I can send it to you anything else, well. But these policies need to go up for a second reading. I recommend that they go back for another first go. Now, I also submitted a policy for review back in January, and nobody's gotten back to me about that. And it was actually because nothing had changed in the bullying policy. So I said, well, what if somebody else ends up in my situation where the bullying policy is there, but it failed? And then what is the family left to do? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 2 years now. So I submitted a policy that said if the bullying policy fails, that there should be some avenue for the family to get the answers that they want, that they need. But I haven't heard anybody respond to me about the policy submittal that I left on the podium back in January. So I'm really trying to figure out how to best interact with this governing body cooperatively, because what I see for bullying policies is not good for the students. So if we want to continue to go through this, but I really want to make sure that I am heard today by more than whoever tunes me out when I'm at the microphone. That this is problematic. The change to IHBCD, the Alternative Education Program, the new changes, because there were changes back in April, which I had issue with as well. Because it seems weird to me that a student should want to stay in alternative education if they finish the program. But I spoke about that a couple of months ago, and you passed it, and that's fine. But then you went and edited it again, and oh, actually, by the way, the edits went in for the specifying middle and high school alternative program and the elementary education program. I actually like that. I agree with that. But the fact still remains that there's a part in the alternative education program that says, if your regular school is still too bad, you can stay in alternative education. And I don't like the way that reads. That says the system is so broken. We're putting Band-Aids on. We don't even know what they're stopping.
Would you please email like a copy of your, it looks like you did pen, right? Edits, like
Yeah,
outlines of
I have it. Yeah, I have it here and I have it digitally.
So I'd be happy to take it in person or via email or both, and I appreciate it.
Great. Since this is my only wedding copy, we can make copies of it before I leave. Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Brocker.
Thank you.
Is there any other further public comment? What was your name, ma'am? Sorry.
Hi, I'm Martha Sue Hope, and I frequently attend board meetings just as a concerned citizen. My kid is 38, so he's way out of the school district. I wanted to speak about the bully and intimidation policy also, because that policy is not for the student. It's not for a person that's being bullied. And it seems like there should be a policy that says if a student is bullied, then they need to be protected or defended. And that starts with the climate, can't remember the right name, of the school district from the top bottom. Bullies, whether they bully or not, when you get a report that a person is being bullied, then it would make sense to me to bring a bully in and say, it's been reported. Don't worry about investigating it. Just say, it's been reported that you've been unkind to someone. Cut it out. Don't let it happen again. And that way, you're not accusing anybody of doing something because you're not investigating it. You're just saying, you're on notice, cut it out. Then the person being bullied sees that something's happening. The person being unkind says, whoa, you're serious, because you can say, if this continues to happen, then, these are the steps we're gonna take. Right, so bullying policy that doesn't talk about the human being that's being harmed is not bullying policy. It's like Jason said, it's to protect the school district. And y'all are gonna be protected. You got lawyers and the school district will be, I know you'll protect yourself. It's just the human cost. Jason's not the only one who has gotten up in the last 2 years and complained about the treatment of their student. And it seems like to me, as an observer, that they 99% of, maybe 100% of the time, walk away from the podium feeling like nothing's going to change. What's happening? Why are you just ignoring me? So parents don't get satisfaction that they're being listened to. A lot of parents come up talking about their students being either between teachers and students or students and students. It just seems like if the school board wanted to change the climate in the schools, then from the top you could rewrite. I know that you have policy to get mental health in to help the bullied person, and that's good. But that's making the bullied person the problem. And the bullied person is not the problem. That's like making a rape victim the problem. Oh, we'll send you to counseling, rape victim, because you got raped. No, you deal with a rapist. And in regards to the Epstein class. But parents that go through trauma, any parent who's lost a kid, there's horrible outcomes for families when they lose a kid. That it's just, and I know that y'all have listened to Jason for years. And I know I'm here. I only met Jason come into school board meetings. So it's not like we were old time buddies, but they just need a break. They just need somebody to say, okay, we don't want this to keep happening. We don't want people to keep hurting. We don't want other parents to go through this. We don't want other families to go through this. And then one more thing, in the school climate, I know I've talked to teachers at the school where Jason's son went, and their comment was, we did everything we could, I can't talk about it. And that's the climate of the school district is, nope, better not talk about it because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And I just think that's not the best way to run a business. If you talk about being for students, for all students, for being, then you need to deal with the student being bullied and stop the bullying or the alleged bullying or the, whatever it is, the unkindness. I mean, just make students emphasize kindness instead of being, instead of reinforcing, giving people student of the year when a report has been made. It's crazy. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Is there any other further public? Oh,
Yes, please. My name is Selena Ward. I'm new to the area, fairly new. I've been here 2 years now, and my child has been dealing with bullying for almost 2 years. So pretty much the entire time of going to school in DD2. And while attending at Somerville High, he had to go to Rise and went to Rise and was in the same classroom as the bully. When the classroom was the size of what, 15, 20 kids?
10 of them.
10. So why couldn't the bully be in a different classroom than my child? And there's been several other reports. I've reached out to DD2, and I'm still waiting for my phone to ring from the last year and a half. I've sent emails, I've left phone call messages. So now you get to meet me in person.
What's your name, ma'am? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Selena Ward, Salina Ward. I know I have a unique spelling, that's why I want to spell it out.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're fine. In regards of the proposed bullying, future, proposally plan, the DD2 plans to have,
We were talking about the policy, ma'am?
the policy of harassment and bullying.
Yes.
Another thing I wanted to mention, not only my child, but other students struggle to speak up. And it takes time. They might be going through some personal issues, some family emergency issues, whatnot. There might be some health concerns, et cetera. The list goes on. And for there to be a 5-day window to speak up, I think that's a little, yeah, uncalled for. Thank you.
I
I'm sorry.
think she was, were you trying to look it up?
Yes, yeah, I was trying to pull it up to see what you were referencing.
Because, I mean, what was it? The second time that I read, or no, 1, 2, 3. The sixth time that there was an incident and I reached out to DD2 with no response back. And it was the Friday of going into Thanksgiving weekend, November of 2025. I left phone calls, emails to numerous people starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. My phone did not ring at all that Friday, nothing over the weekend. I understand it's closed for the holiday, so now we're out for what, 10 days? 11, 12 days later, my phone hasn't rang, my email still hasn't went off.
Ms. Ward, I appreciate you. Could you just stick to the policy itself, and not specific instances with a student? I would appreciate that. Thank you.
But that's leading up to the October, November, December, and now February of 2026, where the bullying has keep occurring, and which I'm leading into, my child has been threatened, been assaulted. It's under video.
Ms. Ward, I understand, but right now is the appropriate time to discuss the policy. We can't discuss specific issues with students and specific schools. It is district policy, but I do appreciate you. We'd be happy to talk with you. You can continue to speak with somebody after the meeting, but currently that is not what this meeting is for. If you would like to speak specifically to the policy, you may do that. I'm sorry, typically we have a 3-minute rule. I'm trying my best to allow you guys to share your story and your concerns, and I really do appreciate you coming and sharing your concerns. But I would just ask that you share your concerns regarding the policy, and if you don't have anything else regarding that, we would like to close out the meeting and finish this meeting. I appreciate you, thank you. I'm sorry. I understand. All right. At this time, we have concluded public comment. So is there anything else? Was there someone? Did you have something? No. Okay. Well, I. Thank you.